This episode and every episode of the Beer Guys Radio Show is brought to you by Ironmonger Brewing. Visit Ironmonger at their taproom in Marietta, Georgia, or online at ironmongerbrewing.com.
Open up a tab, grab a seat, and pour a pint. It's time for the Beer Guys Radio Show.
You want free beer? Go to the brewery.
Dedicated to the art, science, and enjoyment of craft beer.
Yo, what's wrong with the beer we got?
Now, here are your hosts, Tim Dennis and Brian Hewitt.
Welcome to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We're broadcasting from the Beer Guys Radio Studios in Marietta, Georgia. And this week we're talking with Almanac Beer Company. I am Tim Dennis, and with me as always is my good friend and co-host, Brian Hewitt.
Hey, Tim. So joining us today, we have Phillip Emerson, the brewmaster of Almanac Beer Company in Alameda, California. We're going to talk about award-winning beers, the brewery's history, and other fun stuff like barrels and quake yeast. Phil, thanks for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me, Brian and Tim. Super stoked to talk again. It's been a few years.
It has.
Yes.
We actually chatted with you guys at GABF. That's the Great American Beer Festival in 2016. And I think we actually talked to you literally minutes after you had just won a silver medal. Is that right?
Yeah, that we're coming off of a really good win that we're pretty stoked. That was for a mixed culture beer called White Label.
Yes. Yeah. See, that's the time to talk to someone. Give them a medal and then do an interview. Everybody's in a good mood, ready to talk. I got a cool picture wearing your medal.
He was wearing your medal in the
feeling
picture.
like
Yeah.
a hot rod
Yeah,
there.
we're passing around to everyone we could.
Yeah, it's a good time. That was my first year at G. Well, actually, my only year. I haven't been back yet, so that was my first and only year so far. But
You've seen it once, you've seen it enough. It's fun. It's definitely a mess, though.
that's my thing. Is like there's so many beer festivals. I would love to be loaded and just travel to beer festivals all the time.
Oh,
but
yeah.
I'm not able to do that right now. So we mix it up some, but GABF is something you got to check that mark, Brian. You got to check that mark.
That mark should be checked, yes.
You got to go to Falling Rock and
Yes.
drink a bunch of beers. You got to do GABF. It's a little painful, Brian. It's a bit painful.
All that drinking? Oh, such a challenge.
Yeah,
So
such a
difficult.
challenge.
Oh,
Well, Phil, how things going out there in California, man? How's your week been?
Not bad. You're catching me right in the middle of it. We're trying to stay as positive and busy as we possibly can. Like everybody else in the country, COVID's sort of impacting everybody's lives and businesses. And, the beer world is no exception to that. But we're super grateful for the beer that we're making and the customers that are buying it. And the fact that we can still produce some beer right now is we're just incredibly grateful for. I guess that's kind of really where we're at. Yeah, business could be better, but it could always be worse. So just grateful for what we got. That's the truth.
absolutely.
We've been trying to do our part. We go around on Saturday. We usually hit at least one, maybe 2, 3 breweries and get some beer to go. And we'll be honest, Phil, we don't need any more beer.
No,
We're loaded up. We have plenty. We're in the middle of apocalypse, we are not going to go thirsty no matter what happens. But we want to get out there. We've got great breweries doing things like a couple places turned into soup kitchens for those out of work, doing soup and sandwich for people. There's been a lot of charity events going on. So we're trying to do our part and support the local guys here, trying to make it through this weather, this storm, Brian.
Yes.
Brian, you're doing your part very well.
I am. It's actually bad. I need everything to go back to normal so I can quit buying beer. I've got beer I don't know where to put. I'm like, oh, that sounds great. There's less traffic, so some of the whaley, more exciting beers sit on the shelf a little longer. I'm like, well, I definitely have to have that. I'm like, oh, and I haven't been to that brewery recently. Well, I have to show them some support, so I go in and buy one of everything. So,
and we've even got breweries where we stop at a brewery and the brewer there, the owner there is like, hey, don't forget that this other brewery is just down the street. You need to stop in there. And that happened this weekend. We stopped by Variant Brewing.
yes.
We got their collaboration there. Their Drink Well with Others, pineapple, vanilla, lactose, milkshake IPA. That's a mouthful, but it was a delicious beer. We got some stuff there. We went up to Good Word Brewing, one of our favorites. They're one of the ones that became the soup kitchen. And Ryan there at Good Word's like, don't forget to hit 6 Bridges.
Yep.
And so we did. So we
got some quantum, I think quantum fluctuation.
I think that's right. The IP Dippa or
it was a Mosaic.
I think so.
Double
it was
dry
delicious,
hop
whatever
IPA,
it was.
yeah.
What was your favorite beer you got into this week, Brian?
Oh man, that's kind of tough. I'm going to say Ballast Point's Victory at Sea from 2015, the Drink Your Cellar beer, just because it represents a different time, and I finally got to it. Something weirdly I was hoarding because I thought that would be exciting to hang on to. And I'm looking at it now, I'm like, it was a good beer. It held up really well, but I'm like, why was I hanging on to it? So I'm going to say that's my favorite, but a close second is the Tiger That Killed My Father, the maple bourbon
That's the
one.
one I was going to bring up.
Yeah.
So that is a maple bourbon double mash rye stout.
I believe so. Yeah.
Is that right? And so, yeah, a lot going. And for the first time in a while, Brian, we had some nice weather this weekend. So we sat out on the picnic tables in front of our studio.
Yep.
We social distanced ourselves from everybody, and we had some cigars.
That's right. Cigars and bourbon barrel aged beer. It was wonderful.
Time.
Yeah,
Yeah,
really nice moments to enjoy life like that. That's the truth.
Phil, right now with everything that's going on, just finding a minute to sit out and enjoy the sunshine and have a cigar and a beer, boy, that was nice. I hope that everybody comes out of this with a greater appreciation for just really simple pleasures in life,
Clean air, hearing the birds. It's actually kind of a nice, that's the one positive thing you can say is that there is some small positives, and it's important to find them.
Indeed. Tim, speaking of small positives, let's talk about the beers of the week.
Crack open a cold one. It's the Truck and Tap Beer of the Week. Woo-hoo! Craft beer and food trucks in downtown Woodstock. Truckandtap.com.
Well, Brian, as always, we have a great list of beers to get into. We got a pretty nice list of Almanac beers. Right now, we are drinking their Vibes, the Hoppy Pilsner. This is just a really light, great floral nose to it. I get a little bit of lemon, kind of a little citrus in it, but
I love it.
I do too, man. This is one you just want to. This is a relaxing beer. This is, you know what? This is sitting on the patio in the sunshine.
It's a crispy boy.
It's a nice crispy boy there.
Crispy boy.
Phil, we're fans of this one. This is good stuff.
Yeah.
Man.
I'm glad you guys are digging it. That's the intention. It's honestly just a porch beer. This is a beer for the yard. It's a beer for the lawnmower. It's a beer for fishing. It's a beer for hiking. It's just a beer for cooking. It's not a beer to save. It's a beer to enjoy. To share with others.
The drinking beer, man. You got to get the
drinking beer.
Absolutely. Well, we're definitely going to get into that. We have the Loud Hazy Double IPA, Love. We have the Barrel Aged Sunshine and Opportunity. Nice tart beer there. We also have the Coffee Stout Boost.
Oh, you got Boost. Awesome.
Yeah.
We got a can of Boost, and we're going to get into a little collaboration. Good Word, 3 Taverns, 3 words. And, Brian, we've got a cellar selection here. We have Breakside Brewing's Bourbon Barrel Aged Aztec. So, that's our beer list, and we've only got an hour to get through all of those.
Once again, I believe in us.
Yes, absolutely. Well, Brian, what's happening this week in the news?
What's in the news? The beer guys have the scoop.
Extra, read all about it.
Time for headlines.
All right, so it isn't just the breweries feeling the squeeze lately. This week it was announced that the Brewers Association had laid off 23% of their staff and cut management team salaries. And this is following operational budget cuts they made earlier in the month. According to the Brewers Association, this step was needed to, quote, to maintain the long-term viability, unquote, of the organization. What's not clear here is, what's the bigger factor, the pessimism about the immediate future or the cancellation of 2 big high-profile Brewers Association events already this year, the annual Craft Brewers Conference and Savor. And yes, I checked. Our favorite economist and guest on the show, Bart Watson, is still listed on the website, so I think he's still with us in that capacity.
I think Bart's one of the senior guys there.
Chief economist.
He may have been one of the ones that got a little bit of a salary cut.
A slight salary cut.
It's awful. We're starting to see now the ripple effect of it. We had the first round layoffs, but now we're seeing these businesses that are seeing this go on, man. It's tough.
So this is pretty interesting. Atlanta-based Monday Night Brewing conducted a survey of their customers' post-COVID-19 plans, specifically asking them things like how long before you'll actually go to a brewery and have a beer in their tap room. And the questions weren't specific to Monday Night Brewing, so it's kind of an industry as a whole. The numbers are enlightening. 8.3% expect to be early May, 16.9% say second half of May, a big 39.6% say June, and 21.7% say July. So in short, about 75% of respondents do not think they will be back to a brewery tap room until June at the earliest, Tim.
Here's my prediction on that, Brian. If we start to see numbers dropping, if we're getting steady data that says, hey, things are getting under control, we've got this, we're good to go, people will loosen up a little bit. Right now, people are saying, look, it's going to be mid-June, but if we see steady drop, a couple of weeks of good steady drops, people will loosen up. But right now, boy, it's still scary to get out there in the middle of everything.
Yeah, it really is.
You want to stay home and stay safe right now. So you're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We do need to take a break, but we'll be back very soon to talk more with Almanac Beer Cup.
Is your brewery or restaurant flooring all jacked up? Your foundation needs to be protected from heat, chemicals, and other contaminants. At the same time, you want to make sure it's slip resistant and you can clean up your messes with soap and water. You know who to call?
ResTech.
We've been manufacturing poured-in-place flooring since 2002, and we've got solutions to fit any facility's needs. Go on and visit our website at
ResTech.net.
That's RES-TEK.net. Drop us a line and we will come to you for a free evaluation.
Oh, yeah.
It's Brian and Tim, the beer guys. If you're like us, no lunch or dinner is complete without a pint or two of craft beer.
Which is why Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock, Alpharetta, and Duluth are always on our list. Tim, why do they call it Truck and Tap?
Well, the tap part is easy, Brian. They've got 18 of them.
As for the truck part, that's where it gets interesting. Truck and Tap features your favorite Atlanta area food trucks, so you're getting a different menu every day.
Truck and Tap in downtown Woodstock, Alpharetta, and Duluth.
Truckandtap.com. Let them know that the beer guys sent you.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast.
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. Remember, all episodes are available on demand, so if you missed the broadcast, get the podcast. Beer Guys Radio is available on all popular podcasting apps. Now let's get back to our talk with Almanac Brewing Company.
Phil, we just cracked into another one of your beers here. We have Sunshine and Opportunity. Can you tell us a bit about this beer?
Yeah, totally. That beer is kind of a passion project for me. That's beer that I've been working on for about 4 years now. It's a beer that's 100% mixed culture, wild yeast, Brettanomyces, Saccharomyces, Lactobacillus, multigrain. So we got, barley, there's wheat, there's oats in there, maybe some spelt, depending on which batch we're looking at. And it's aged 100% fermented and aged in oak, and then naturally conditioned 100%, and then canned, which is kind of a unique thing that you don't see a lot of people doing, is putting Brett beers that are naturally canned and not pasteurized into these beers. We think we were the first. There might be another brewery out there that can beat us onto that, but we've been doing this for almost 3 years now, and in a can, and we're really proud of it. This used to be a draft only beer, and it's something we've developed into a can conditioned 100% mixed culture beer.
That sounds like a brave move, Phil.
Dangerous.
Putting a conditioned Brett beer in a can.
It took a while to develop,
Yeah.
how we do it. We've shared it with a few other breweries now that are doing it, and just because I think there's nothing new under the sun, one. But, it was really because this beer isn't a beer I want you to save. Like, it ages well. It's a great beer. It'll, it holds up for years. When we drink, vintages, verticals, it's awesome to see how it ages. But it's a beer that we're like picking the best barrels at their prime in the most, kind of cool nuances, highlighting citrus and pear, trying to complement the dry hop. So it's a beer that we're really packaging for you to drink now, even though it is naturally conditioned. We're saying we think it drinks best right now. Enjoy it. If you drink it in 6 months, you'll also still enjoy it. So it's kind of, being in a can too is kind of the cool product. Is you can take it anywhere, right? It's no longer stuck to, your bottle share. It's more like take it on the river or take it on the hike.
It's hard to have a nice goose by the pool, Brian.
It
You
is.
can't take those big bottles out there.
Yeah, they frown on the glassware
They do.
being by the pool. Yeah,
absolutely.
I don't understand that. Little glass never hurt anybody's foot. It's fine.
Right. Busted up there. They're convenient also if a fight breaks out. Having a bottle
Yes,
around
you've got the edge of the
is
pool to
handy stuff
break it,
there.
and then you've got something to stab with.
Yeah,
It's great.
see, it's
And
good
you've
to
got
go.
a buzz. It's nothing but enjoyment
You've got
right
this.
there, Tim.
This has happened before. You're not speaking.
I'm not going
hypothetically
to say
here, are you?
anything for sure, but
Okay.
Yeah.
Good stuff, man. Well, Phil, we talked a little bit. We don't want to, we've been trying to cover. We know it's a hot topic. You can't get away from it. The car commercial. I saw a Volkswagen commercial the other day. It's like, we know a lot of people are laid off out of work and that's why we'll give you 6 months to your first payment. I'm like, they're saying, look, we don't care if you have a job. We're going to sell you a car
In these challenging times, buy a Honda.
Buy a Honda. Right? Yeah, absolutely. But you mentioned a little bit of kind of what you guys are doing. Basically, I think everybody right now, everything they're doing is, look, we're just trying to make it through this, get to the other side of that. But I saw you got a few cool things that you're doing. You're doing some virtual concerts. Is that right?
We've done some virtual concerts, hosted them on our Instagram. Absolutely. Some local artists that we're really stoked on that we've hosted in the past for, concerts at the brewery.
And so that's something, you have someone come in there, do a concert, and you stream it out there. Is that right?
Well, we do it from their house, but host it on our Instagram.
Okay.
Or, host it on Zoom. Just trying to one, share the word about local artists who are also super out of work right now. Right? Is if you're a musician, you're not touring, you're not making your money.
Sure.
So we're trying to support people that are also in this, in the same problem together with us.
There's so much stuff that I don't think people think about. I know that I don't think about with how the kind of the domino effect of all of this stuff. I was talking to someone that organizes a local beer fest, and they mentioned they were doing their best to reschedule, not to cancel. And they were talking to other event promoters saying, look, reschedule, don't just cancel your festival, reschedule it. And she mentioned, she's like, look, if we reschedule, people are going to get tickets and come to the beer festival. They said, but we're more concerned about our vendors, because there's certain vendors, especially artistic types, in that their income is all their festival, their festival revenue. Totally. And if you cancel all of the spring festivals, they've totally lost their income stream there. So there's so many people that the dairy farmers, like seeing about them having to dump their milk because the way it wasn't moving. So
they need to make that cheese that we were talking
That's
about.
Right. That weird Japanese cheese, right?
The interesting curdled cheese. Yeah.
Yeah.
I'm jealous that you guys can ship directly, at least within state, the beer. So we wouldn't have to make the rounds, Tim. I could just go hit all of the breweries' websites and just have all of those. It actually
to the studio.
It's probably for the best that we can't do that, because I would have even more beer than I have.
It's a little dangerous, man, because it's the whole state. California is a big state, so if I want to order beer from San Diego to my house, I can, and that's pretty awesome because I used to live there and I love a lot of breweries down there. I want to spread the love and support all my friends. So in a way, this is kind of a new territory that's opened up for brewers in California. I know it's changed in a lot of other states as well, and I kind of hope it stays after COVID, because it's shown that it doesn't, result in any sort of unfair practices. We're not circumventing, distributors, bars. Everyone's still getting their cut, but it's helping consumers. If you don't want to come to a brewery, especially right now with the COVID, but also just in the future, it saves you that trip.
And you would think people getting beer at their house would be the safest way. You're at home drinking your alcohol at home.
No driving involved.
Right. Yeah. Stay at home, get your alcohol. Good stuff, man. Well, Phil, let's talk about your background a little bit. Is beer your first chosen career? Did you have a life before beer?
Yeah. So I went back to school really kind of late. Previous to beer, I worked in the UAW auto union in California. Okay. I worked in some light remanufacturing and stuff like that. Then I moved on to biotech, worked in biotech for a couple of years, and wasn't really sure about where life was going to take me. A few years back, I went to a food chemistry degree at UC Davis.
Okay, sure.
And that really opened the doors for beer for me.
You said biotech. Are you engineering yeast or anything right now in the lab at the brewery?
No, I'm not even close to being smart enough for that. But we actually work with a brewery. With a yeast lab that's local to us. If I can give them a shout out, Berkeley Brewing Science is friends of mine, and they are doing some GMO, really rad stuff with yeast that are, it's to create a better brewing yeast. So if you want no diacetyl is a possibility. If you want, additional flavors, additional hop terpenes, I think that's probably the most exciting thing that's going to come out in the next 5 years of brewing is what you can do with yeast.
Everything's so focused on hops these days. What can we, other than like when Kvite comes along and people get geeked up about it. But we were talking, our guest last week was John Laffler from Off Color Brewing.
Oh yeah.
And he's big into yeast and bacteria and just talking about what's being done there. And, so it's learning the science about all this stuff is amazing. We learn a lot from hops. We were talking during the break, Phil, about Mitch Steele coming to Georgia from California. And we've also got Stan Hieronymus is in Atlanta now. So, we talked to him about hops and learning all of that. And
totally the book on hops and the book on IPA.
Yeah,
exactly.
I mean, the two guys right there. So,
totally.
Below the surface of this, the science of this, it's really fascinating that beer on the surface is such a simple beverage. But there's just so much that can be done there. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, absolutely. I think if I look at that, like in that sense, anybody can make beer, and they should if they want to. You can make great homebrew from home. I've had some of the best beers I've ever had have been homebrew, and I think that's kind of what's great about it. It's like baking. Anyone can make bread, but for certain reasons, there's absolutely bakeries that exist that make some of the best bread you've ever had that you can't make at home, and that's just based on someone dedicated 10 years of their life to learn this craft. That's kind of what we're seeing in craft beer. It's a participant sport. The fans can join in and really join into what they're doing, but at the same time, there's professional sort of folks involved that are putting the time.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's on the surface a very simple beer, but a lot of range, a lot of ground that can be covered in a fairly simple, straightforward beverage, I think. Yeah.
It's just a little bit of science. It's a little bit of art, a little bit of voodoo and magic.
That's right.
It's what it takes to get a good beer. Well, you're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We do need to take another break here, but we'll be back very soon to talk more with Phil Emerson of Almanac Beer Company.
Craft beer forged with a reverence for tradition and new styles that start a revolution. Ironmonger Brewing. The brewers at Ironmonger Brewing pride themselves at being masters of barrel-aged, hoppy, and sour beers. They invite you to their tap room in Marietta, Georgia to taste and see. Also visit their barrel room for an intimate drinking experience with great live entertainment. Keep up to date on all things Ironmonger by liking them on Facebook. Ironmonger Brewing, establishing a new standard in craft beer.
As a brewery owner or taproom manager, are you looking for ways to enhance your customer experience while maximizing your revenues? Craft Cellar is a mobile solution that helps your brewery drive sales and attract new customers through online pre-sales for beer releases, events, and memberships. Get details now at craftcellar.com. Mention Beer Guys Radio after sign up and extend your free trial to a full 30 days. Remember, craftcellar.com, craftcellr.com.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
Strange things are afoot at the Circle K.
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. I want to give a quick shout out to one of our great radio affiliates, KTEL, 1490 AM and 99.7 FM in Walla Walla, Washington. Catch Beer Guys Radio on KTEL every Sunday at 2 p.m. local time. Now let's get back to our conversation with Almanac Beer Company.
Almanac Beer Company. What? I love saying Walla Walla, Washington. Walla Walla is a fun town to say.
I live 10 miles south of that on the Oregon side, so I've been to Walla Walla many times.
Been to Walla Walla?
I have. Walla Walla, awesome. Washington.
Did you run into Bugs Bunny there?
I looked around for him, and I did see the cartoons, and I was amused by all of that. And the city I lived in was at the time, I think the only hyphenated city, Milton Freewater. Dash in there. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. I lived there. Yes.
Phil, have you been to Walla Walla?
I'm not sure. Is that above Spokane or is that above like Vancouver?
It's about 30 miles. I guess that would be east of Pendleton, Oregon. The Pendleton Roundup.
We don't know where any of these places. What is the Pendleton? Are you just making things?
No, it's
up
a real
Brian?
place.
Yeah.
They make the blankets and everything. It's great. Yeah,
good stuff. All right. Well, let's talk about Almanac Beer Company.
Okay,
there we go. So, Phil, you guys have got an interesting story. So when we talked to you in 2016, I believe when we talked to you, either you just opened a tap room or were you still gypsy? When was that, September 2016?
Let's see. We might have just opened the tap room or just getting ready to open it. We were still gypsy brewing, absolutely at that point. We opened the tap room and the new brewery in Alameda. So the old tap room is in San Francisco. I won't talk about it anymore because we closed that.
Okay, gotcha. All right.
The new tap room and the new brewery is in Alameda, and we opened that in 2017. So pretty stoked about that. That was something we were definitely working on while we were talking to you as well, just in the progress. It took about 2 years to build out. And so that was our transition from gypsy brewing to producing our own beer.
Now, you guys were gypsy for a long time. I think the founders of the brewery, Jesse Friedman and Damian Fagan. Jesse, we talked to at JBF. He has since departed daily operations, but is still on the board, I believe, there at Almanac, correct?
Yeah.
He's doing events and food events and stuff now, I think, down in L.A.
Jesse, I don't talk to him too often, but I've talked to him a few times in the last year, and he's living his best life down in LA. He did some travel, some food travel writing to Vietnam and stuff, and
Oh, very
nice.
Cool. Awesome.
Yeah,
Very nice.
He's having a good time down there for sure.
But, one question I had, a lot of times you'll see gypsy brewers, they do beers that you put in a package and you send out. You guys did a lot of crazy, wild, sour barrel stuff. How hard was that to do as a gypsy brewery?
Kind of like just the stars aligning because, they started gypsy brewing sour before I started there. But, if you think about it, 2014, 2015, there was nobody that was really, even receptible to contracting sours. And so I'm super grateful. And I know they are, that we had that opportunity to start as a gypsy brewery at some place that would allow us to, throw a bunch of weird microbes in their mix. Without that, we wouldn't be able to do it. So it's not common, but we're grateful for it for sure.
Did you have one location that you brewed at all the time, or did you bounce around to different locations?
It bounced around quite a bit.
Okay.
A lot of Northern California breweries for sure. Mostly at Hermitage, but multitude.
Brian, I see you staring at a can like you've got questions there.
Well, I've been looking at these cans, and I just noticed how many of the cans have a little logo on it. It says Admiral Maltings, and I happen to know that I think they're a neighbor of yours. You've got a craft maltster as a neighbor. Is that right?
That's right. It's pretty awesome. We actually share a shear wall with them. So our building is a 1948 warehouse that was built, the end of the World War on a naval base, and cool, warehouse building that we share. And the wall that divides us is the other side is the malt house, and that's Admiral Maltings. And without them, we wouldn't even know about the space. So we're eternally grateful to our brothers there. It's run by old school dudes from the industry in SF, Ron, and those guys are, basically doing something that no one's done this side of the Mississippi in 100 years, which is floor malting California grown malt. That's pretty cool.
California grown malt. That's interesting. I locally malting it, but actually taking it from local growth. I actually had no idea.
It's either organic or no-till, and the debate's out on farming practices, which one's better. But that's incredible that they don't even brag about that. They're just doing these right things for the right reasons, and we're all the beneficiary because we get fresh malt.
That's something we've talked about, down here. Craft malt is a fairly new term for a lot of people, they've been the big ones, you've had your Wireman Brees and all of these guys that you get. But down here, we actually have a Georgia malting that'll be opening soon. They reached out to me recently, Brian. We got to get in touch and go visit there. But we've got in Asheville, there's Riverbend Malt House that a lot of the breweries in the Southeast.
They're based in Tennessee as well.
Absolutely. And, they talk about a lot, and I'm sure this applies to any crop, but, you get your malt locally and you're not having the CO2 impact of a truck bringing it from Michigan or bringing it from overseas or whatever, just like anything else, working local is nice.
And almost as important, you get unique flavor. You get a unique local take on
that local
grain.
Terroir, Brian.
Yeah, you get,
absolutely.
Yes, the terroir.
It's a win-win. No, it totally is. It's a word that gets overused, but it's absolutely something that you can say is, taste this beer that tastes like this place and time, and that's pretty cool.
Right. And speaking of that, I think that's the phrase I heard used. I don't want to misquote it, but the brewery's name, Almanac, is referenced from the Farmer's Almanac, and that has to do with kind of capturing a space and time. Is that correct?
Totally. It's something we embraced early on, which is that we take in over 60,000 pounds of fresh fruit locally every year of local fruit, 200-mile radius. That's just that fruit. We took over 250,000 pounds of Admiral malt last year. That's the malt next door, 250,000 pounds. So we live what we say when we say farm to barrel. That's totally our ethos and something we try to abide by every day in the beers that we make. And having this malt house next door is kind of that. We were able to tie that whole thing together. Before California grown malt was grown in California and then shipped to like Minnesota and then shipped back on a train, right? Which is insane.
Right. Exactly.
Instead here, it's like we get to actually meet the farmer. So we hosted an event with our partners next door, Admiral, and we hosted a Meet the Farmer event last year for Beer Week. And, you have the farmer there who grows it and the guy who manages the field and the guy who actually malts it and then the brewer who actually gets to use it. And that's kind of a cool closed circle you can show a consumer is here's where everything came from in your beer. And it's in a 200-mile radius.
Right. Exactly. It's so awesome to see that. And, I'm sure, a lot of breweries take their spent grain and give it to local farmers to feed their livestock.
Totally.
And we have places here that kind of the other end of that life cycle. We have a brewery that gives to a local farmer, and he's actually came out there and grilled He's a pig farmer.
Oh,
and
yeah.
he'll come out and make pork burgers and stuff. And I'll tell you,
the circle of life.
Yeah, absolutely.
You hope he was fed on Stout.
See, they need to do the event where it's everything. The farmers that are growing the grain all the way around to the pork burgers there that have eaten off the spent grain. It's the full life cycle there.
So I have a question. I was looking at your website, and I noticed that a number of the people listed on your team their job title was farmers market. Do you have a farmers market there at the brewery?
No. But one of the most famous farmers markets in the West Coast is in the San Francisco and the Market Terminal building where the ferry terminal is. We're grateful enough to be able to sell at that farmers market. That's a thing in California, which is that breweries can apply for licenses and sell at certain farmers markets. And for us, that's our closest major farmers market that we want to participate in. So we do every weekend. As a consumer in San Francisco, you can walk to the farmers market and get some freshly grown produce from all throughout the Sacramento Valley, but also pick up some, week-old Almanac beer.
That sounds great.
Our farmers markets would be so much cooler if we had local beer there. So actually the little town I'm in,
start for there.
Yeah. We kind of do, because interestingly enough, the little town that I live in has a farmers market on weekends, and the street that they close off and set up on actually butts up to the tap room of a brewery. So Reformation Brewery there up in Woodstock, Georgia is right there. They have the farmers market right behind them. So not at the farmers market, but close enough to be kind of the same.
Can you take your beer out and just wander the little
can
farmers
now
market?
Because they've made that area an entertainment district, so it is allowed now.
So you can't deliver or ship your beer, but you can walk out of the door for a few feet.
We're working on it.
Almost there.
We're
1 year away. I'll bet you, honestly.
That's it. 1 year away.
If there's a petition to sign that I can from my state, I will. Let me know.
Absolutely. We'll let you know, man. Absolutely. You're listening to the Beer Guys Radio Show. We do need to take another break, but we'll be back very soon to talk more with Almanac Beer Company.
Have you ever thought about owning your own brewery but don't know what it takes to get one built? We're Storytime Construction, and we build breweries. We're Georgia's most experienced and hands-on contractors when it comes to building new breweries and tap rooms, or expanding existing breweries. We offer full build-outs, remodeling, and additions, as well as consulting and construction management. Give us a call at 770-733-4343. Storytime Construction. We build breweries.
As beer lovers, we know real beer, and Athletic Brewing makes non-alcoholic beer that stands shoulder to shoulder with full-strength craft beer. With a fraction of the calories and certified organic, it's a great beer to enjoy anytime. Check out Athletic's selection of IPAs, golden ales, stouts, and more at athleticbrewing.com. Use code BeerGuys25 for 25% off your first order, and U.S. customers get free nationwide shipping. Athletic Brewing, brew without compromise.
Follow the Beer Guys on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram.
To be the man, you gotta beat the man. Woo!
Now, back to the Beer Guys Radio Show.
Welcome back to the Beer Guys Radio Show. If you enjoy the show, please consider supporting us on Patreon. Just go to patreon.com/beerguys. Patrons get cool perks like Beer Guys swag, commercial-free episodes, and even bonus episodes that aren't available anywhere else. Now let's get back to Almanac Beer Company.
Phil, since we're entering the last segment of the show here, we still have a few of your beers to drink, but we wanted to get into this stout. So we just opened up your Boost Coffee Stout. And you know what? I don't want to take this joy from Brian, because I know this is a topic he's very passionate about. But he wanted to talk a little bit about this beer and the coffee.
Yes, I did. And in the break, you mentioned that this whole Boost Coffee beer was basically an excuse for you to sample all the different coffee varieties that are around. So tell us a bit about that.
Yeah, totally. So I'm a coffee geek after beer, absolutely. And so this beer is a hybrid of many styles. It's an English style stout with American style bitterness, fermented with Kolsch yeast. So all those things combined kind of add to like a weird recipe. And what that really translates to is it's heavier on the chocolate. It's got a tiny bit of roast to it. It has a little bit of firm bitterness, and it's very fruity yeast forward. And all that plays really well with the more expressive coffee varieties that I wanted to learn about. So each recipe of Boost that we brew We feature a different local roaster, and what's really cool about it is we go to that roaster and we say, what are you excited about? What are you roasting that's weird and exciting? And we get to go sample, 3 or 4 or 5 or 8 different coffees. And then we bring them back to the brewery and we test them in small batches of boost. And then we go, oh, cool, let's actually make, 50 barrels of this beer with some natural wash Ethiopian beans that were grown in Guatemala, right? Like some weird extension of all the things about coffee. But to see what it really tastes like in the same beer, batch after batch after batch, was really a cool learning experience for us.
Sure. And the one we're drinking is back from November. So I forget who you said was actually supplying the beans, but do you remember the variety of the beans?
It should be an Ethiopian grown natural wash. It should be big on blueberries. I'm not sure now what it's tasting like because coffee is kind of a delicate flavor that it has only a few months, I think, to capture that real essence. Otherwise, it just kind of tastes like coffee. But if it's more on the blueberry note, then you're definitely getting that natural wash, Kenyan.
I do enjoy the African coffees, the Kenyan, the Rwandan, the Ethiopian. I love that. If you get if you can capture that blueberry note in a coffee and make it into a beer, I am in heaven. In a coffee,
you've always been big on bring me all these fruit expressions and stuff.
Right, acidic.
I want a coffee. I want a very good one, but my flavors preferred. I like chocolates, toasted nuts like walnut, deep chocolate. Those are the flavors fudgy.
Tim is Latin American coffee, I think, his preference. Mine is more of the African coffees
totally
and maybe Colombian.
With a good Colombian coffee. Yeah.
One thing that's fun about this beer is we did that. We did very traditional Colombian, but then we said, okay, you have a traditional Colombian that's natural washed, or went from there. And then throughout the process, we actually able to find a farmer a roaster that was working with a farmer that was taking African beans and growing them in Colombia or growing them in Peru. But, at these high altitudes, and you get to see this crossover where it's like, wait, this is like, growing Cascade in New Zealand. It's the same equivalent.
Right. Yeah, same thing. Exactly. Yeah. Another thing they do that with is tobaccos, like talking about like Connecticut leaf. They'll grow in Nicaragua or Dominican Republic and Ecuador and everything. You get the characteristics of that leaf that you expect no matter where it's grown, but each region gives its own.
It's going to be a little different.
Piece
yeah.
Once again, Brian, terroir.
Terroir,
the magic word. Yeah. Well, Phil, we want to talk to you some kind about your sours and barrel aging. Interestingly enough, the Sunshine and Opportunity is the most sour thing we've got into today, but that was originally my introduction to Almanac beers, back the Dog Patch series, getting in those, which you had mentioned, I think, on break that you haven't done one in a while, but there may be another Dog Patch coming back soon. Is that right?
Yeah, totally. Another Dog Patch. Probably the most excited Flanders we made in about 3 years. Really stoked to put it out. It's coming out in the next few months.
Awesome.
Basically, Flanders was your most popular beer for a while. Is that right? Because I love that style, and that's crazy to think about. Different breweries will have their favorite IPA, their favorite pale ale, or their favorite ESB, or even an amber. But having your favorite beer, your most checked-in beer on Untapped, which I know is skewed, being a Flanders, that kind of geeks me out, honestly.
Yeah. That's I think that was like summing up 2013 for us, 2014 in a nutshell. These days we certainly sell 50-60% just IPA out the door. It's kind of our bread and butter, but sours were where we got into this business, and sours is our original passion. So that's kind of what we've definitely dedicated a facility for that. We've got over 1,200 barrels in foeder capacity, over 400 oak barrels on top of that. And it's just kind of a wonderful, place to play with what aging happens in oak.
Yeah, it's interesting talking about how you kind of got on the map with the sours, but IPAs out the door. We had Dr. Bill Sysak on the show a few weeks ago from a Wild Barrel Brewing, and he was mentioning, you've got to, if you want to be a successful brewery right now, you do have to follow trends for the most part. There's some people that break the mold there a little bit, but most people have your passion, have your core, have whatever, but serve the people. What are they drinking? If you want a successful business, make a product, that people are going to drink.
Give the people what they want.
Off-color brewing that we just talked about.
No IPAs.
Never going to brew an IPA.
Have never done it. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, we want to talk about specifically a beer, Lamb and Goose, which sounds super interesting. And that's kind of experiment, you said, of science versus time to get a goose style beer out. Is that right?
Yeah, that's the whole idea. So Lamb and Goose, playing off of lambic and goose. It's really a beer it's based upon mythology and process, and I'm doing my hardest to emulate flavors of goose. without being in in Belgium. And it's with nothing of a knock to tradition. I love these breweries; they're really my inspiration. But it's really a thought experiment in practicality. Can I make a lot of these flavors that we looked for in Goose and Lambic? Can that be done in California at any time that we want to? So it's a line of beer that I'm really excited to release. It's probably the beer that I'm most self-conscious over. It's not, there's no fruit. It's literally just yeast and fermentation. But it's a beer that I'm incredibly proud of, because while it is certainly not Goose or Lambic, it's getting close. And I think for the first attempt, it's really impressive that I want to keep working in this lane, that, what makes these flavors develop and understanding them in process.
Do you do anything spontaneous, or have you captured any of your own cultures and stuff?
So we've done some repitch of spontaneous, like weird fermentations over time, to kind of speak of like the Almanac house culture. It's been going for 6 years. So there's certainly a lot that we don't know about it that is from the environment. But in the true sense of spontaneous, we don't we don't have a cool ship. We're not knocking out. But what really came from it was my background in food science, is learning that there's a succession of microbes that have a specific purpose, but at a time in the sequence that makes it make sense, and trying to emulate that and seeing that, it's sort of like prebiotics for probiotics sort of mentality, that you can't get this flavor unless you started off with the building blocks to build it. And then the machines and the microbes, can they put it together? And so that's really what what I'm really trying to achieve here is having the machines assemble the building blocks, the prebiotics for probiotics. Can we make these flavors achieve in something that seems like magic completely, which is Lambic? It seems like 100% Lambic or magic. Can we put a little bit of science in there and accomplish some of the same flavors?
It seems like you should, with enough time, you should be able to do it. I got to talk about, before we run out of time, we have to get into Quake. Like, you've done some experimentation. You've done some experimentations with Quake. How is that going? And what do you think the future is with that?
I think Quake's, we've certainly done a lot of brews with it. We don't use it as a house yeast by any means. I'm really impressed by it as just a voracious appetite. Can it make beer? One of the things I see, like maybe from like a business side, is like, oh man, you can make beer in 3 days. That's cool, but is it actually a beer you really enjoy? And I've had some Quake beers that are phenomenal, mind blowing. I actually generally enjoy it. And there's some great breweries in New York that are using Quake as like a house strain, and I love their beers. We ultimately don't produce Quake beers year round, because I just find that there's other yeast that I appreciate more for that application. But I'm so intrigued by it that it goes against everything you've learned about beer science, brewing science. You can treat this yeast kind of like you shouldn't treat anything, and it still rewards you with awesome tasting alcohol. So it's kind of a cool, I think it's going to open the doors, especially with climate change. Can we ferment warmer? That has almost, incountable benefits on climate change by not using cooling to keep something fermentation cooler. You can actually, 10 degrees would have huge effect across the industry.
Sure. I think we're about out of time. So if people want to keep up with what's going on with Almanac, where should they go?
Almanacbeer.com. It's absolutely one of the ones to go. On our Instagram, our breweries in Alameda. We're open right now during COVID, only during certain hours, so please check in. If you live in California, we can ship beer to your door. Ultimately, I say right now, during these weird times, drink local as much as you can, support the local people around you. But, Almanac Beer is available in a few states, and we're happy to sell the beer that we do. So
awesome. Thanks, Phil. We appreciate you joining us.
Thank you very much for having me, guys. Thanks, Tim. Thanks, Brian.
Absolutely. That about wraps it up for this episode of the Beer Guys Radio Show. Join us next week as we talk with Pontoon Brewing. For more craft beer info, follow us online. We are Beer Guys Radio on Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram. Thanks for tuning in. Have a great week, and don't forget to drink local. Cheers.